Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to today's forum. May I request everyone to head back to their seats as we will resume our session once more. Right. Okay. All right. So thank you. And for this session, we will be kicking off officially the forum with, say, a way to build the context, understand what the agricultural system across Southeast Asia is like today at the present. And with us, of course, are an excellent panel of experts and speakers who will be talking about sustainable and inclusive as well as equitable agriculture. We'll be looking at how the key players are lined up and laid out in today's systems, and we'll be talking about how we can propose methods and mechanisms by which we could get equity advanced within the sector. So to do that, we have with us Mr. Carl Satinitigan of We Solve Foundation to do a quick presentation on the work his organization has done in terms of mapping the agricultural sector today. Afterwards, he will be joined by a panel of specialists, Ms. Noni Caban of Ricolto, all the way from Indonesia. Let's kindly give her a round of applause, please. With us here today as well as Ms. Norhaya de Makaling of Seed Philippines. So let's give her a round of applause. And who will be joining us shortly, of course, via Zoom, would be Mr. Erwin Belen of Adam Co., who will be talking as well. So even if he's not here physically, let's also give him a round of applause. All right, thank you. So with that, let me please call on stage Mr. Carl Satinitigan of We Solve Foundation for his initial presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you, Sean. Very happy to be here. Thank you, Fabian, and everyone behind. Thank you. Thank you. It is my birthday today. So I hope you... Thank you. Thanks for coming to my party. No, it's my birthday, so please be extra nice. I will bore you for a few minutes, but don't worry. We have an exciting panel right after. But we thought it would be interesting to just set the tone. It's been a while since we've come together, and food systems change every day. So just to sort of do a quick step back, what the food system looks like. What I'll give you is an overview that's here. Okay. What I'll be giving you is an overview that's not a comprehensive food system in the Philippines, but just a part of it. And the ask really from us a few months ago as We Solve Foundation. By the way, the hat, I'm wearing multiple hats today, but the hat that I'm wearing for this particular presentation is We Solve Foundation. It's a relatively young organization that tries to push for collective impact on inclusive mobility, food sovereignty, and a host of other issues in the Philippines that require collaboration and multi-stakeholder work. And so a few months ago, somebody approached a couple of stakeholders in the food system, approached We Solve Foundation to check if we can look at the problem of hunger and undernutrition in the Philippines. As many of you know, it's a crisis. It's a huge, huge problem. And so the request was, there are all these exciting and massive food programs already, some of them decades old. Some of them are by the hosts in this conference. Gawad Kalinga has a wonderful Kusina ng Kalinga program. And the request was, alongside these massive feeding programs, are there other ways that could complement the current work? Are there market-driven and other innovative ways to complement existing food initiatives? And so our response was, maybe we could take a look at what it looks like from a particular lens. And so we called the research Building a Future-Proof Circular Food System in Metro Manila. A host of jargon in that slide, but let me walk you through it just very quickly before the panel. And so, as you already know, the food system, particularly in the Philippines, is very, very inefficient. I will not bore you with the numbers, but even before the pandemic, it was already terribly bad. The vegetables, the food that comes to Metro Manila is already low quality at a very expensive price, especially for most of Filipinos. And so we thought, one hypothesis that we wanted to test was, if in order to address the hunger problem and the undernutrition problem, maybe we need to intervene in key points of the food system to make it more affordable and accessible to poorer households. And understand that the current linear one, is exacerbating the hunger and malnutrition crisis. By that, what we mean is, currently, there are so many stakeholders involved in producing food and distributing food. But there's a lot of room to work on, to sort of help them work together and become more efficient, so that nutritious, affordable food gets to more people in the Philippines. And so what we did was just to sort of invite other stakeholders and players into the conversation, because again, we've been addressing hunger and malnutrition in the Philippines for decades now, and there's a lot of big players already in that conversation. But we wanted to invite newer players, or players that are not yet fully established. They're testing new things, they're being innovative, they're being crazy. And so we said, what if we apply a circular lens? Maybe we are able to capture the innovation in the periphery, those that are not yet fully tested, but are trying and experimenting on different things. And also learning from other countries who are adding a circular lens to the food system. And so what we did, it does not look clear from here, but just to sort of give you an idea of the canvas, what we did was come up with a framework that combines the food system as we know it, but with a circular lens. So coming from optimizing the harvest, so at the farm level, what are some of the interesting things that are happening there, for example, in surplus and imperfect fruits and vegetables? Or making sure that your farming is a lot more efficient and you're using agricultural ag tech products that will enhance the yield of a particular product. And then you walk through the entire canvas. Each one is sort of like a component in that system with a circular lens. So looking at food production, refining inventory management, reshaping consumer habits, enhancing food distribution, strengthening food rescue, and finally recycling anything remaining. And again, the idea here is to invite you to sort of look at the food system at a slightly different lens, so that we could see who's doing what, especially the past 2 years during the pandemic when we were forced to be extra innovative, and see if there are opportunities here where we could come up with interesting market-driven solutions that complement the existing solutions that are out there. So because of that exercise and the map, I invite you to look at the map online. I will share the link in a bit. We were able to co-design with a couple of stakeholders a few initiatives, some of which are currently being tested right now, and happy to discuss them with you over lunch some more. But for example, the Alternative Rice Hub model with this group called Tanging Yaman Foundation, they've been distributing food for so many years, especially after disaster relief. One of the interesting things that they did during the pandemic was they became sort of like a conduit for affordable rice that was a surplus rice from Luzon farmer cooperatives, and became like a conduit for distributing that to urban poor households at a cheaper, so more affordable, but still high quality rice. And so they tried that during the pandemic. It's working very, very well. What we're doing now with them is to check if that can survive post-pandemic. Is there an alternative rice hub social enterprise model that works with church workers and pastoral groups who could distribute rice and other food items in a more sustainable and affordable way for urban poor households? The other interesting thing that we're also toying with is almost similar to Kusina ng Kalinga, but on a carinderia network level. So what we've discovered during the pandemic is, if you've heard of the term carinderia before, it's the Filipino for an eatery, like a mom and pop eatery. So it's like the sari-sari store, but for food, and they're almost everywhere in the Philippines. So a couple of organizations such as Kasagana Ka Cooperative and also the Malabon local government established certain carinderia locations in their city that could serve as also conduits for distributing food in a for-profit way. Very, very affordable. But because there's a small charge, one of the price points that they're testing right now is 5 peso lugaw or 5 peso rice porridge interventions with urban poor communities. And again, the idea there is, can we test something that complements the already existing food feeding programs of government and other organizations with an afternoon 5 peso meal that would sort of address hunger and undernutrition. The last one of the four that I'll share is a startup that I'm actually testing right now. So it's called an asset sharing platform. One of the great things about looking at the food system from a circular lens is you could also identify what are some of the gaps, what are some of the areas where other organizations like you can come in and try something new. And so this third final example before I introduce the panel is this startup that I'm calling Meron Exchange. Essentially, it's like a B2B, but for food kitchen equipment, for other devices or food storage rooms, cold storage facilities, so that you could share these items with one another and lower your costs because you don't have to sort of acquire, for example, a freezer right away in the beginning of your feeding program. And so that's a model that we're testing right now. It's a circular startup that I'm launching very soon. But again, the point is you can discover new ways of doing things and testing them to complement the work that's already existing. There are a host of volunteers, charity groups, wonderful organizations, big and small, that are addressing hunger and malnutrition in the Philippines. The map that I showed earlier is just a subset of that. But there's also still room to play and innovate because, as you know, the food system, especially if we transition from a linear one today to a more circular one, where we do not lose anything, you do not lose nutrients in that system because it's purely circular. Very, very big dream, but there's room to innovate so that we can slowly achieve that dream. So some of our recommendations it's not seen here, but some of the recommendations that we have in the slide is, number one, time to think about the next generation of leaders in the food system. There are a lot of organizations, yes, but even the biggest organizations are also in need of more people who could sort of come in and take leadership or managerial roles in the system. So if you're interested in food and addressing hunger and malnutrition, there are ways to sort of join and be the next leader in that space. The other thing that we were advocating for is coming up with certain spaces, and the 3.0 house could be one of them, where people can experiment some more and build ventures that complement the existing work. So sort of like a venture studio for agri food innovation, where young people, students can come in and play with their ideas. Things that we've been doing already before, but maybe at a more strategic and blended way, inviting the public sector, the private sector to come together and finance different parts of that system. And so again, that map is just a subset of what's happening, but we invite you to sort of take a look at it. You can contribute to it, you can challenge it. The way we frame it might be wrong, might be irrelevant already in the coming months, but we want to have that conversation with more stakeholders. There's a lot of room for innovation. And in the panel this morning, we will be talking about it some more. So please be ready with your questions as I invite the panel on stage. So let's give a round of applause to Nor and to Nona, who will now be joining me here on stage. Yes, please. Welcome, welcome. I hope I didn't bore you just yet, but now is the more exciting part. And again, hope that sort of puts you into context about the situation in the Philippines. But now let's also look at it from different lenses. We have a representative from Seed Philippines. They're training the next generation of leaders in the food system and beyond. We also have a representative from a nonprofit, correct, that is focusing on rural smallholder farmers. And Erwin is joining us, an urban agriculture geek, as he likes to call himself. So we will be looking at the food system from different angles. But maybe just to start, let's listen to them introduce their work and what they've been up to, especially during the past few years. So maybe Ms. Nona?
Thank you. My name is Noni. Thank you for the new name. I take it. It's okay. Oh yeah. Since you are the birthday boy, it's okay. It's your day. So my name is Noni Kaban, head of program Ricolto in Indonesia, and also the director for Good Food for Cities in Southeast Asia for Ricolto Southeast Asia. So in Southeast Asia, we have 2 offices in Indonesia and in Vietnam. So before go further, let me introduce about Ricolto. So Ricolto is international network organization. We work across 17 countries, Southeast Asia, Latin America, East and West Africa, and also in Belgium. So the headquarters is in Belgium, in Leuven. Our mission is sustainable income for farmers and affordable and nutritious food access for everyone. So to do so, we build bridge between the food system actors. And in terms of Indonesia, because now I'm going to talk about what we are going to do in Indonesia. So in Indonesia, we work in 7 provinces and we have 4 programs: sustainable rice, coffee and cacao, and then Good Food for City, or if you see our website, it's still Food Smart City, it's called. So we work with 15 farmer organizations in Indonesia and about 15,000 farmers. But across the 7 countries, we work with more than 100,000 farmers. So to meet the goals, our approach is we work in 3 pillars. One is sustainable crop production. And so this is where we work with farmer organization. We equip the farmers how to implement sustainable agriculture, and then and also professionalize the farmer organization so they can meet the demand. And then we work also inclusive market. We work with so we promote the business relation between farmer organization and the private actors, financial institutions. And the 3rd pillar is enabling environment. This is we actively participate in national and regional multinational platform to influence policy and legal framework that mainstream sustainability, inclusion, and incentivize sustainable innovation and practices. So inclusive business is at the core of each program. So in every aspect of our work, we pay special attention to also empower women, youth, and also ensure the practices on environment. So maybe that's the brief information about what we do. Thanks.
Thank you for that. And if you notice, their organization also intervenes in multiple points in the food system. So thank you for that. Nor, how about for Seed Philippines?
Yeah. Thank you, Carl. Hi, Erwin.
Hi, Erwin.
Yes. Well, I'm Nor Hayadi Makaling from the School for Experiential and Entrepreneurial Development. And I'm a farmer and also an agriculturist, and I've been working with the youth and farmers for about 9 years already. And from this 9 years of exposing in the agri sector, what I have observed is that if we're going to look at the agri value chain of the Philippines, there are major problems that we're facing right now. One is the multi-layer market intermediaries and market mismatch. Second is the limited economies of size, because majority of our farmers in the Philippines own a small parcel of land. Third is the weak institutional support. And if we're going to look at the archipelago of the Philippines, it's very ironic because we're very rich in natural resources, both land and water, and yet our farmers and fishermen are poor. 26.1% of the total population of the Philippines are poor, and these are comprised of farmers and fishermen. And if we're going to look at the young individual nowadays, they doesn't want to engage in agriculture anymore because they perceive it as a one-way ticket to poverty. And this is the main reason why we established the School for Experiential and Entrepreneurial Development. We aim to raise an army of young generation of agri-entrepreneurs because there are so much opportunities in agriculture only if we provide them, we hone their value-oriented mindset, we provide them with the right technology and innovation, and also exposing them to the power of collaboration. And I'm happy to announce with you that since the establishment of Seed Philippines, we've able to graduate 472. And I have here with me some of the graduates in the Seed Philippines. Can you stand up? So we have Robert and Ken handling the Bayananihan. They're actually managing 24 farmers, cassava and vegetable farmers. We also have Christina, who's managing 15 farmers for the family food farm program.
Nice.
And we also have Danilo handling 14 families for the Babuyang Walang Amoy. So they're actually raising 70 hogs. So seeing them right now actually made us realize that we're on the right track. We're doing the right program. And it was also emphasized during the pandemic. Because during the pandemic, we realized the importance of agriculture. And we've realized the importance of strengthening the local food system. And with that, together with our partners, GK USA, Gawad Kilinga, and also the Manulife, we've created a program. We've established community food farms to help the different communities all over the Philippines. So up to date, the community food farm is actually an intervention to augment food and income for poor families, starting with 200 square meter land. And since the establishment of community food farms, we're able to establish 45 community food farms from 14 provinces.
Nice.
20 are basic community food farms, and 15
Advanced.
are integrated.
Oh, integrated.
Integrated community food farms. Meaning of integrated, it's actually composed of vegetables and animals, livestock and poultry. And since also the establishment, we're able to develop 12 hectares of land, and we've able to have 380 families, and 90% of these families are women. So
Nice.
we've targeted to establish 1,000 community food farms. And with that,
You're on the
please join us in addressing hunger and malnutrition through these community food farms.
Thank you so much, Nor. Very, very exciting work, and they're always expanding. Actually, later I'll ask Ms. Noni also if some of the issues that Nor raised, she resonates with in Indonesia, and if there are similarities there. But before that, Erwin, if you'd kindly introduce yourself, what is an urban agricultural geek? Erwin, welcome to the panel.
So hi, good morning everyone. I'm Erwin Belen. So as Carl mentioned, I forgot happy birthday, Carl. So as Carl mentioned, so I stylize myself as the agricultural geek, urban agricultural geek, because I'm a geek, and I have been pushing for urban agriculture since 2016. So for me as a professional, I am a licensed agriculturist, and since 2016, I've been doing lectures, trainings on urban agriculture to different parts of Metro Manila through the Kabalikat sa Kabuhayan of SM Foundation. And then right after that, I have been involved to different urban agriculture projects all throughout Metro Manila. And actually in 2019, so that's when I was with Nor at the Future Bridging Leaders program at the Asian Institute of Management.
Mhm.
So there I pitched the idea of having urban agriculture for different barangays. So
Nice.
I had one pilot project in Barangay East Rembo. So there I found out that people have that interest to do urban agriculture and is willing to devote time. So these are the requirements needed for you to have a successful farm. And then eventually, I got involved with other projects that are uh, of people who are interested in doing urban agriculture. So one of the last projects that I had is with the urban farmers of BGC. So that's the only farm right in the middle of the Central Business District of
Nice.
Bonifacio Global City. So there, I've been doing urban agriculture projects, and well, right now I'm working in a corporate setup right now. So, but still on the side, I'm doing my advocacy on urban agriculture with my organizations as well on how we can promote food security in urban areas.
Nice. Thank you, Erin. I have a lot of questions for you in a bit, but let's start, I guess, with some of the challenges. We build on what Nor mentioned earlier. She shared some of the issues that they are addressing through Seed Philippines. Maybe beginning with Noni in Indonesia, are similar issues? Are there other issues that you're facing, especially from the rural agriculture side? What are some of the issues that you're contending with right now?
Yeah, so if you notice when Miss
Nor.
Nor
Yes.
speaking, I was nodding because we
Same.
face the same challenges. So in terms of land, in Indonesia, farmers own less than 1 hectare land, and also many farmers as laborers. Yeah, instead of because they don't have land, and also okay, so that's yeah, the issue similar.
Yes.
And when we look into the farmer organization, because what we do is also to link the farmer organization with buyers, right? So so last year actually we conducted our 5 years evaluation of our program, and we found that when market demand actually become the key drivers
Yes.
to support or the change in the farm level. So when the buyers or the market requires a good quality products, like meet the good agriculture practices, and then they want to implement that practices. So when we work with the farmers, the challenge is to switch the mindset, the actually, yeah, the mindset, but also the way of they work, right? Because they've been farmers for many years, and the way they farm, it's heritage,
Right.
yeah, from generation to
Yes.
generation.
Yes.
So to change, so we need to show the value added by changing the way they implement the agriculture. So the market demand actually give a positive impact, that because they know the market requires this, then they want to. And then from our and actually it shows increase of their income because they can meet the market demand. Yeah. But again, the challenge come to the financial institution, the
Okay.
access to finance. Yeah. Because if they want to meet the market demands, so this is one of the challenges we also need to solve, like the certification, how the world the institution international requires the certification, and it's quite expensive, and usually the buyer owns it.
Right.
And then they can only sell to that or that buyers, because that certification owned by the private actors. But if they want to own the certification for organics, fair trade, etc., it should they need a capital. So this is where usually also the gap, the challenge. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And I think one takeaway there is, even if there's a market ready for some of the food products, there's still the financing gap. And we will explore that in a bit, what are some of the things you're doing to sort of address that. But in the urban side, Erwin, are you encountering the same challenges? I'm curious, for example, if you're able to attract because they're closer to the city, right? Are you able to attract more young people to urban farming, for example, or what are some of the issues that you're facing as urban farming
Yeah,
experts?
with my experience, so at first, since we started in 2016, so people are actually they take their food for granted. That I can just buy food from the supermarket or from the
Right.
wet market. But then during the pandemic, when it started in 2020, so people realized, oh no, where should I get my food? And then all the prices of the vegetables are going up. So they realized that, oh, I can produce my own food. So that was the time that many people are got interested into farming, or specifically urban farming. So, well, some of the challenges are, number one is the support coming from the government. Although right now they have established a program with the Department of Agriculture, focusing on urban agriculture. And then second would be the buy-in of the people. As I mentioned during our time in FB and AIN. So one of the key findings that I found is if there is no ownership
Ownership.
for these communities to do urban agriculture, so it will not happen because for them it's just another task for them to do rather
Right.
than they put themselves into producing food. So if they do not own that problem on food security, it will be hard. It will be a hard sell for them to do it. So at least in my experience in East Rembo, so the people there are really doing farming. And actually, if you, before we had that project there, so I asked the locals. So even along the streets, they have pocket gardens.
Mm-hmm.
So you see that ownership from them that they themselves will be producing their own food. And then they see the importance of having their own food. So it was an easy, from the get-go, it was easy for us to help them to to establish their own uh, urban farm. So actually, they have an area where they have started something. So they just needed a little push. So I got into different networks. So I asked help. So they pitched in, and we were able to establish. Actually, uh, during that time there was only one greenhouse, but right now I think they have two greenhouses in the
Nice.
area. So yeah, if that community has that ownership on
Mhm.
the problem that they want to solve, so definitely there will be something that they can do.
Nice. Thanks, Erwin. And I tie that to the similar mindset shifting thing that Nani mentioned earlier, that if you shift the mindset of the farmers, you can do so much more. What you're saying is that if your partners in the community own the farm in an urban setting, that sort of moves the advocacy forward. And as everyone knows here, especially those who are community organizing in Gawad Kalinga, shifting mindsets is very, very hard. So uh, on that challenge of shifting mindsets, and also I will tie it also to addressing the finance gap. I know we're working hard with these questions because they're big, but I'll pass it to Nor first. How is Seed addressing the mindset part and the financing part? You can focus on one, or you can tackle both.
I'll focus on the mindset because that's the main core of the program. Like, because in Seed Philippines, we believe that competence is not enough.
Correct.
Character development, it's very important, especially if we're establishing different programs and we're dealing with communities. Because talking about communities, they have different, it's very diverse.
Right.
They have different kinds of attitude. The culture is different from one community to another community. So it's very important to address that specific problem or that specific point. That's why in all programs that we establish, not just with our youth, but also in the different GK communities, we always integrate the values formation part.
Nice. And sorry, I'll harp on to that because I mean we can introduce so much innovation and circularity and all these buzzwords, but at the core of it, the hard, long work of convincing your community partners and your other stakeholders to own something and embrace a particular set of values. I think there's no shortcut there. I think is what I'm hearing. Whether it's urban or rural or with young or old, that takes work. I think is what I'm hearing. And so in your case, it's part of the curriculum of SEED, and it's not just a by the way. Let's talk about values. It's really part of the core curriculum. Thank you for that. How about in Indonesia?
So before that, I want to echoing what Erwin
Erwin.
mentioned about the urban.
Mhm.
So urban is maybe already mentioned before by SEI how the population increase and then the needs to improve the food volume quality is very important. And then we also know that the urbanization will play a very important role here because many people will live in urban. And then urban consumption will drive the change of our food system, right? Because the food in urban, it will impact the nearby and also the rural practices to meet the growing urban needs for food. And then it will change it will influence our agriculture system and like leading to intensification because the growing population and then high value, the price and etc. So having a solution from the urban context is, I think, one of I think it's important. Like having the urban agriculture, already implemented by Erwin. And also, actually, in Ricolto, we have this Food Smart City or Good Food for Cities program with for the urban agriculture. So during COVID, the rise of urban agriculture rise during COVID because of the disruption of logistics. And now the question is how we can make this sustainable, continuous. And during the COVID itself, the government, especially in Indonesia, like they focus on the urban, support many urban agriculture. And for example, in one area where we work, they have like about 500 spots of urban agriculture. But now the question is how to ensure the sustainability. And now we are try to test, like you mentioned in the beginning, like we need to find the solution, the right way, how to make this is what we've tried to be sustainable. So now we want to see the commercialization of this urban agriculture. So if this is something that Erwin already doing, I would love to hear more, or maybe we can talk later. So that's just to emphasize how the urban context is very important in our food system now. Sorry, what was the question?
The mindset, about the mindset.
Mindset?
How are you guys shifting the mindset of the farmers?
Yeah. So in Ricolto, we when we work with farmer organization, we also conducted training of trainers. We invite business development services to support the farmer organization. And again, this is about agriculture is complex. Yeah, it's about hunger, poverty, and then how to meet the living income for the farmers. So when we want to shift the change, we have to show the economic impact for the farmers. So we work on the living income. So we see like how we can how we can support the farmers so they can meet their living income by supporting in the not only the practices, how they can with the regenerative agriculture, how they can reduce the inputs they use. Like for rice, sustainable rice that we implemented in Indonesia, the amount of input they use can be reduced by at least 30% because they now switch to organic fertilizer. They make their own fertilizer. And then also we see the diversification. So so the bottom line, like how we can show that they can, when they implemented good agriculture practices, they also can live from the live standard of living.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And Erwin, this is also a segue to inclusion as a theme for this session about. I don't know, Erwin, if you're hearing these. I don't agree with it, but some people are saying that when you push for urban agriculture, you sort of take away from rural agriculture because that's where the real need is. We have farmers who need help in rural agriculture, and maybe if we support urban agriculture, we take away from that. I have comments on that, but I wanted to pick your brain first on this issue and how do you guys respond to it as an urban agriculture enthusiast?
Yeah, actually, I've been hearing a lot of those comments about supporting urban agriculture. But in reality, having urban agriculture is just to augment what's being produced
Correct.
from the rural areas. And at the same time, it does not mean that, oh, if we have urban agriculture, we should focus on it, not on rural agriculture. We're not saying that. What we're telling is we need to build sustainable food system so that everyone, both in rural and urban areas, will be able to have access to food. And at the same time, those challenges, for example, you have mentioned earlier, logistics. So the problem for that can be augmented. Let's say there's a disruption like another pandemic. So people in the urban areas will be able to have their source of food immediately rather than rely on those coming from the rural areas. And we see, and if we can connect also it to climate change. So there are food miles of transporting food from one point to another. So if we can shorten that gap or that transportation, so it would be producing less carbon for the environment. So yeah, it doesn't mean that we are replacing rural agriculture, and definitely these people would need more help more than the urban agriculture. But I'm not saying that we should disregard urban agriculture. Everything is important, and there should be at least an effort coming from all stakeholders, the people, the government, even the private sector, to establish sustainable food systems.
Correct. The crisis is just so massive, right? So there's definitely room for everyone. We will be opening the floor in a bit for your questions. So please think about some of the questions that you'd like to ask our panel. But maybe to transition to that, what are some of the exciting things you're looking forward to in the coming months or years? You can talk about maybe on the policy side that you're excited about, or interesting programs that you're looking forward to in your organization in the food system space, whether it's to promote more inclusion or some of the other things that you're doing to address these challenges. What can we look forward to SEED, for example?
Well, for SEED Philippines, based on what I have said a while ago, we actually target to establish 1,000 community food farms all over the Philippines, meaning this includes urban areas and not just in rural areas. And we're actually working with the government. We wanted to lobby this program so that we can make sure that the we can secure the food even at the community level. So by the time that there's a disaster, we won't have problem in terms of accessibility of food. Kasi diba, during the pandemic, it's very difficult to access the food because there's a problem on logistics, and we wanted to address that kind of issue.
Nice, exciting, or Nani?
So for us, I'm excited about the initiation or and enabling the multi-stakeholder processes that we are initiate now.
Mhm.
And because through this multi-stakeholder processes, we can co-create a solution and inclusive market.
Nice.
Because it represent the core and everyone have a voice. Like I mentioned before, agriculture is a complex issue. A collaboration is needed. So yeah, I'm excited that actually on the 5th of October, next week we are going to launch our multi-stakeholder processes webinar. Please join. You can check our website, Ricolto, and we have this multi-stakeholder webinar conducted. And also now for our program, Good Food at Cities, we work very close with the local government. So now we are, as part of also multi-stakeholder discussion, we are discussing about how we can incentivize the private actors to support the food system in the context of urban. But it's coming. I'll just follow our our channels and we'll update you.
Nice. How about you, Arvin? Anything you're excited to for?
Yeah. Well, actually, what we are doing right now at BGC. So, since people are seeing the farm and everyone is saying, "Oh, that's I want to join you. I want to help." So we've been seeing companies getting excited into doing urban agriculture, and also we have been in contacts with the Department of Agriculture, also state universities and colleges that who would want to pitch their help or who would want to share something uh, to promote urban agriculture. So I'm really much excited on how these stakeholders will be able to co-create something to be able to build sustainable food systems in the Philippines.
Nice. Thank you, Arvin. Opening the floor to questions. Anyone with a question you'd like to ask the panel? Yes, Olivier. There's a mic on its way.
Good morning, everyone. I am wondering, although I did not understand everything, but what's the role of cooperatives of farmers? Do you consider it as a key way to improve the situation? And if yes, in which sense?
Nice. Thank you, Olivier. So the role of farmer cooperatives. I have some answers, but let's start with you guys. Nani?
The role of cooperatives.
Yes.
It's important because they become the collective marketing for the farmers, and because they cannot sell the farmers if they only sell themselves, they cannot meet it's difficult to find the buyers. But through the through the farmer organization or cooperatives, they can sell collectively, and their role is very important for us to support the farmers in terms of change the mindset, because if they want to sell to the cooperatives, then they need to meet the requirement. For example, they need to implement the good agriculture practices, and our support here to through the cooperatives provide the training for the farmer organization and the members, so they know how to implement good agriculture practices, so they can meet the international standard and they can access international market as well. So their role is important, and but they dot.
Thank you, Nani.
Pardon?
Oh, is there a percentage? Cooperatives.
The percentage of
How many of the farmers who are organized as cooperatives?
I'm sorry, I don't have the
What's your estimate, maybe?
One farmer organization, the member can be 1,000.
So sometimes it's hard to say because there could be a small number of cooperatives, but they are massive. So for example, in the Philippines, and Nor, feel free to add. You
Well,
muna. Go
for
ahead.
the Philippines, I think the members of the cooperative, it's about 20 to 25 members each cooperative.
So sorry. Yeah. So
For the percentage.
yeah.
I have no figures for that.
I also think there's no updated. So what I know also is that the Cooperative Development Authority, speaking of the Philippine side, is they're, I don't want to use the word culling, but they're checking what are the right who are still existing as cooperatives, because there are a lot on the list, and some are small, some are massive. But what they're realizing is that not everyone's active. The tricky thing about cooperatives is while they can help with the ownership mindset because each member is an owner, it's very hard to sustain because, as Nor's point earlier, they come from different backgrounds, they have very different value systems. There's a lot of social preparation, community organizing that needs to be done. Some government offices are taking it upon themselves to do it, but as you know, that's also not evenly implemented. So some are better at organizing cooperatives while others are not. There is a world where we can track them much better and have them. They're currently organizing the data set around this, I believe, and there's a session with the Department of Agriculture either today or tomorrow. So very curious if what the update is on that. I'm curious though with Erwin, are there urban farmer cooperatives that you've heard of, or it's mostly rural?
Yeah, for farmer cooperatives, it's usually rural. I haven't heard of any cooperatives yet, but I think there are groups focusing on urban agriculture. So these are a group of farmers who would want to at least collectivize what they're doing for urban agriculture. But
Sorry,
going,
collectivize is your word.
yeah, so they would want to make a group of group of urban farmers and then share their thoughts, their ideas. But
Ah,
in terms of having it as a cooperative, so I don't think they are going to that direction yet.
right.
But going to the question on the importance of farmer cooperatives,
Mm,
so definitely there is the farmer cooperatives will play a key role on how can these smallholder farmers will be able to scale, because if you look at the landscape of agriculture, so we have many smallholder farmers, and if we would want to compare it, let's say to Korea, to Vietnam, so actually most of these farmers are formed into a cooperative.
right.
So they were able to compete at scale because they have bigger lands instead of just individual fragmented lands that we have. So actually, our group, so one of my organizations, it's called Coalition for Agricultural Modernization in the Philippines. So we are actually lobbying to the Department of Agriculture to create a bureau that focuses on agricultural cooperatives
Ah,
so that it will lessen the load from CDA, from Cooperative Development Authority, and put priority to these agricultural cooperatives. So that more programs will be able to channel to them, and then at the same time, we help the farmers themselves to be more competitive if we are also looking at the global market as well. So those are the things that I see where this cooperatives will come in.
thank you, Erwin. Do you have a follow up, Olivier, or that's good? Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir. Maybe your name and your
Yeah, thank
organization.
you very much. I'm Anis from Tunisia. I would like to ask about your work. In recall to you said that you worked in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Do you apply the same development model,
Mm,
especially since you talked about mindset, etc., in your process, does the culture change the manner of working or even the way to design the development program? Also, what's the most challenges that you find during this implementation or process when you work with different, cultures and countries? It's not the same. Thank you. And thank you for the big work that you made through your organization. Thank you very much.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you. In Ricolto, we as a network organization, we develop the design, the concept. So we work in the same program, let's say sustainable rice production, coffee, cacao, under living income, and then good food for cities program. We have the same strategies, and then we work under these three pillars: sustainable crop production, inclusive market, and enabling environment. But each country, region implement the project differently. I mean, depend on the each context. Yeah. So, for example, the for a program in Indonesia for good food at school, we focus on urban agriculture because the fact that cities in Indonesia rely 80% of their food source coming from outside their city. So when we talk about food security, and we see from this COVID pandemic experience how it's disrupt the logistic, and then now the question how city can provide food security for their citizens. So that's when we built this urban agriculture program. And also Indonesia as a second largest food waste dumper in the world. So now the question is how we can reduce the food waste from the source level, so the household level. So that's the context we bring. And then when we talk about urban agriculture, then we talk about, because we work under the same like regenerative agriculture, make sure that the implementation also like using in a good practices. So we that's how we implement. So we work when we work with urban agriculture, so we also implement that concept that in our mind that we need to implement the good agriculture practices in the urban context. So that context that we implement in all countries, but the program itself different in each country.
So they adjust depending on the context. Yes, sir, from the back. It's on its way. Oh, there are online questions too. That's really cool.
Thank you. My name is Clemens Grunbühl. I'm from the Australian Centre for International Agriculture Research. I would like to explore this question a little bit more, this perceived competition between urban and rural agriculture. You also said you had some more thoughts, but
yes.
I'd be keen to hear them. I would like to say quite frankly, from our point of view in terms of research, urban agriculture is important. However, for food security, it is probably not the best way to go. Well, starting with the lack of sufficient area for bulk foods, we won't be able to have enough. Also, there it is very intensive, right. Very input driven, and energy inefficient. However, there are very important other benefits for which reasons we have to still continue to pursue urban agriculture. I think there are a number of nutritional benefits. Right. There's a lot of short-lived commodities that urban agriculture can produce in lower quantities. But also in terms of environmental benefits, environmental services, I think super important, and social benefits. If we think of urban gardens, community gardens, things like that, these are things that bring communities together on the topic of food and environment and managing natural resources. So for these reasons, I think urban agriculture are extremely important. For food security itself, we will never be able to replace broad acre crops in the rural areas. But I agree completely, we have to find more resilient systems that manage to ensure the sort of the robustness of food systems. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'll let Erwin respond first, and I'll share my thoughts in a bit. Well, what are your thoughts on that, Erwin?
Yeah, I actually agree on that. Definitely, we cannot grow rice in Metro Manila, but actually, there's a setup of rice production in Rizal Park. But then, it cannot replace. I mean, urban agriculture cannot replace what's being produced in the rural areas. So, for example, rice. We do not have that much of land to plant rice. So definitely, we still rely on rural agriculture for this. So I totally agree on what has been said about urban agriculture and rural agriculture.
Thank you, Erwin. And my additional thoughts just on that is I think there's a role to play, especially with us here gathered today, in clarifying expectations. We tend to sort of, I mean, it's great to be rah, rah, rah about our innovations and our like, oh, let's solve something with urban agri. But sometimes we tend to inflate or conflate. We tend to super emphasize some of the big ideas and we confuse our audience. And so when some, I mean, I'm not saying all urban agriculture advocates, but some do sound like it's the solution to the hunger problem. And in reality, as was mentioned, you need both and you need all. And clarify that a specific intervention will only be able to address a specific part of the system. And if you look at it in a systems lens, as we are trying to advocate today, there's room for everybody, but knowing also that we have to manage our expectations also. This is a long marathon, while the urgent need of feeding hungry people is also very, very real. So it's that mix of balancing that long vision and systems building work, but at the same time having immediate food on the table for actual families. I heard we have questions from the online audience. Is there a way we can get some of them, or is there anyone else with a comment or question from our on-site audience? Are we getting online questions, or maybe one or two? Thank you.
I can't read it like now, but it's about youth and agriculture, how we change the mindset so that youth can be more integrated into the system.
Nice. Okay, I'll pass it on to Nor first. How can we integrate more young people to the work?
Well, as what I have said a while ago, majority of the young individual nowadays doesn't want to engage anymore in agriculture because they perceive it as a one-way ticket to poverty. So what we can do is to show them that there's big opportunities on agriculture, that agriculture is really working. We just need to integrate some platforms or some innovation technology for it to happen.
Thank you, Nor. And just to add to that, there are also other roles in the system, right? I mean, we invite you to explore the food system further. I mean, not everyone here can be farmers. That's a really hard job. If you want to be one, seed can help. But if that's not your interest, you have other skills, you have other strengths, the system is huge. There are opportunities for startup founders, for policymakers, for people who want to volunteer on the weekends, for people who just want to donate. So there's room for everybody. And I think there is there is still that notion that young people are allergic to it. But I think more and more, especially during the pandemic, we've seen even just with the community pantries or the community food farms, there's a growing, or maybe that's also the mindset, right? That we sort of not generalize all young people as allergic to working with the food system because all of us here are young, including Olivier, very young. Yes, exactly. We're all young here in one way or another. No, but just no kidding. There's room to play for every role, for every type of intervention, and so especially young people are more imaginative or more crazy with their ideas. Finding, I guess, the right organization to tinker and experiment. So maybe the organizations here can sort of be the platform for you. Maybe just as a final way to sort of close this session, I'm inviting all our panelists to share to our audience how can they get in touch with you, or what are some of the how can they connect with you so that they could learn and be updated in your work and your progress in the coming months. So maybe let's start with Nor.
Well, for Seed Philippines, we have Facebook page, so you can just search for Seed Philippines. So you can message us in that platform.
There you go. Seed Philippines, everybody. Round of applause for Nor. For Noni.
You can reach us by going to our website, Ricolto Indonesia, or just go to the global one, Ricolto, and then you can find Indonesia, Vietnam, and then you can reach us, or you can email me, Noni, NONNIE.KABAN @ricolto.org. Thank you.
Perfect. Round of applause for Noni, all the way from Bali, Indonesia. Erwin, how can people work with you?
Okay.
Or get in touch with you?
Well, I have my personal Facebook page. So it's called Urban Agriculture PH. So you can search for in Facebook. So just search Urban Agriculture PH. Or if you want also to see what those activities that we are doing with the farm at BGC. So I'm currently volunteering with the Urban Farmers PH. So these are two kinds of organizations. So Urban Farmers PH is the one managing the farm in BGC and also some other projects in Makati and in Caloocan. So if you want also to send me an email, so you can email me at urbanagri.ph@gmail.com.
Perfect. Round of applause for our urban agriculture geek, Erwin. Thank you so much for joining us. For We Solve, we invite you to challenge or interrogate the food system map that we built. It's wesolve.ph. And also we'll update you on other things that we're doing there. And thank you so much for listening to us. Turning it over to Fabian first for some announcements.
Actually, it's not an announcement.
Oh,
It's a question. So
sure.
I will wear my participant's hat.
Sure.
I wanted to ask Carl if in your study you're including as some sort of an innovation factor, considering insects as a new source of food, because it's happening a lot in different parts of the world that they are trying to raise insects at least for animal consumption, but there are a lot of studies and a lot of startups looking at insects as an alternative to food,
Right.
as alternative food. And so I don't know if it in your study or in the efforts that you guys are doing, is it being seen as an innovative factor or something that can disrupt the current food system?
At least in the collecting of the signals or the interventions, we haven't heard one yet in the Philippines. The closest we could find that it's part of the system now is alternative proteins. So using other types of food materials to be your source of protein. But yes, definitely there should be room for that, and very exciting space too. Also, just to very quickly add, there's also a part in the map where you're shaping consumer mindsets. My top of mind reaction to insects as protein is you have to do a lot of consumer mindset shifting to sort of convince them to, because as you know, food is also cultural, but like what you eat and what you love to eat is a whole different conversation altogether. So yes, more protein, but I don't know if I eat it right away. So yes.
Obviously, it's going from a survival type of food mindset to something that you eat every day. But it has to go with the way you grow them, the way you raise them, the environment where they are. Obviously, we have the mindset it's either disgusting or it's dirty, depending on where we're getting them. But I think for the next edition of the forum, we should have a conversation on
Right.
what is it today that we don't eat, so
Correct.
that could become our next food alternative. And there's a nice French startup that maybe we can share
Oh,
a
nice.
little bit more on the after event. There are two actually. They're raising a lot of money, so it means there are a lot of people believing that this
Right.
is the next big thing, and we can share maybe some data or some links to everybody after the forum, so we can do some research on this.
Thank you, Fabian. Actually, that's a very good way to close this session about
There's still
my.
one session.
Oh, there. Oh, Tito Rene has a question. With ongoing climate change, do you think it's important for us to deliberately choose areas of food production where there will be less crop failures, like planting rice in areas less visited by typhoon and flood? So I think the question is, I mean, a very good question about adding the climate lens to the conversation, making that part of the conversation. I don't know if anyone wants to answer this first. How do we consider the impact of typhoons and other hazards to planning our food system? Anyone would like to start? That's in Indonesia. Are you also? I don't know if typhoons are big it's very big here in Indonesia. Maybe you have a different set of
We are in a ring of fire, so we will, well,
earthquakes.
we don't welcome, but
You
many,
always.
yeah, disasters, earthquake happens. So,
How can how do
do you
you?
think it's important for us to
Yes.
deliberately choose areas of food production where, I don't know, this is big question, yeah. But with this, I think this is where the innovation, the technologies come to find the solution for crop production. Because if we move from area to another area, what does it mean? Like if one area is like, I don't know, mentioned before, like every month typhoon, and then sourcing the food from outside the island, what does it mean in terms of logistic? It means costs. It will be high for production to transfer. So I think this is the role of us here to find the solution through the innovation technologies. If it can help us to face the challenges,
Right.
But short answer, maybe we should not.
We should, but it's very difficult. You want to add to that, Nor?
Well, I agree with Noni. There's really a need for us to integrate innovation and technology because, if we only focus, well, I somewhat, there's an idea of, okay, let's produce this kind of crop in an area where there's no typhoon. But if we're going to look at the value chain, it's very complex. There are a lot of things, there are a lot of factors that we need to consider. And for now, for me, it's very big to understand this kind of aspect that, well, yeah,
Yes.
there's
There's so much work to do on that
Yes.
space. And there's also another conversation around crop insurance. In the Philippines, we've been struggling with that. We can't somehow crack that. Maybe with our conversations with government officials today or tomorrow, we can bring that up. Also, Erwin, I don't know on the urban side is how do you address climate risks?
Yeah, well, with urban areas, there is what we call indoor farming. So definitely we are not for this kinds of urban farms are not susceptible to floods, to typhoon. But then again, yeah, for me, I believe that there should be careful planning in terms of where crops should be planted or what areas should focus on such crops. Uh, so yeah, there should be a coordination with all the stakeholders for us to be able to produce food for everyone. So especially with the climate change and all these risks that we're seeing for the farms.
Thank you, Erwin. And climate resilient agriculture is also a huge space and conversation. Do you have questions more, or should I? There's one more, I think. I hope you're ready for lunch. We're almost there, but I think we have. Are we flashing a question? We're good. Yes. Super last.
Hello. Hi. Good afternoon already to everyone. I'm Erica. I'm from SGV EY Philippines. And my question is related to the Paris Agreement. So, of course, both Indonesia and the Philippines were signatories of the Paris Agreement. So we have NDCs, and one of which is really to decrease our carbon emissions. And we all know that agriculture is really an industry where it emits a lot of greenhouse gases. And you also mentioned earlier that we need a lot of innovation and technology to kind of, mitigate all of these and bring down our emission levels. But my question is basically for both Philippines and Indonesia. Given that the average age of farmers is actually around maybe 58, right? 58 to 60 years old. Well, for the Philippines, for Indonesia, I'm not sure. 55, okay. So it's pretty advanced already. Do you think our farmers will be ready to kind of adapt these innovation technology, these climate smart technologies? And if yes, what are the steps? If no, what can we do?
Thank you, Erica. So how do we introduce innovation to our farmers, especially those who are a little
Well,
older?
working with the farmers, it's very difficult to encourage them to adapt this kind of technology. You have to show them first that this technology is working. But what we did in Seed Philippines, because there are a lot of things that we need to do in order for us to encourage the farmers. So our strategy was to engage young because they're the new one. They will be the one to follow this local farmers, the aged farmers. So because it's very easy to encourage the young individuals because they're passionate and they wanted to explore new things and all. So I think for Seed Philippines, we target the young individuals.
So in Indonesia, well, in our experience, what we do is we make this demonstration plot, and we invite the farmers to participate in the demonstration plot. And using this demo plot, this is a good chance for the farmers to see the difference between their current practices, and using this innovation from the demo plot, they can see what are the differences. And because this is we cannot change the mindset again, the practices that have been implemented for many years, just by saying this is good. So we need to show the reality to show them what are they going to see if they implement this innovation, right? Yeah, so usually what we do is we make this demonstration plot and they participate in that process so they can see the difference. So that's how we engage the farmers when we invite them to participate in the innovation.
Thank you. And my only build to that is something similar is happening in the fisher folk space. So for example, Rare Philippines, they work with fisheries communities in the Philippines. They use behavioral design to recreate the system and the environment so that fishermen who are used to very traditional ways of working are slowly opening up to more innovative experimental methods. And of course, the results are still being discovered, but they're attempting that also in the fishery side because it's also very tricky. Erwin, do you want to add to that? How do we introduce innovation to more people?
Yeah. I would agree on letting the farmers see these technologies. So in Ilocano, they have a saying that "Jack Patty, Jack Kita." So if I do not see it, I won't believe it, or to see is to believe. So definitely, if we let these farmers see this technology and they see the importance, the value of it. So they will be able to learn more on how can they become more responsible in producing food. So I think those are that. This is one of the things that all stakeholders should do. So for us to be able to make them aware, make the farmers aware of the importance of lessening our carbon emissions and helping on combating climate change.
Thank you so much, Erwin. I hope this first session or panel sort of just opens up your mind to all sorts of other things. The crisis is massive, but there are ways to intervene or help in different parts of the system. But looking forward to more conversation after this one. And let's give our big round of applause to our panelists for this morning, to Erwin, to Nor, and to Noni, all the way from Bali. Thank you so much, and please enjoy lunch.